Today on Homeworthy, we're taking you to the bucolic hills of the Cotswolds. There sits a beautifully restored barn that entrepreneur Sue Jones and her husband have called home for the last 17 years. From the moment Sue stepped inside, she was immediately enchanted by the barn's grand ceilings, charming old-world details, and beautiful surrounding grounds. With an impeccable eye for design, Sue has decorated her English home with a treasure trove of patinaed antiques and rich fabrics, weaving her personal touch into the many lives of the barn. Enjoy!
Hello Homeworthy, my name is Sue Jones and welcome to my barn in the Cotswolds. I can't wait to show you around, so come in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Welcome to my rather eccentric, rather beautiful home in the middle of the Cotswolds, in the middle of nowhere. When I say eccentric, it is an old barn, and it's reached through a colonnade, which is mostly made up of Roman pillars, which we're very proud of, and it has this rather enchanting feel to it as you walk towards it. It was very important to us that we didn't spoil the feel of this place, and so we've kept this part of the house very much as it was. We've obviously done a lot of work on the roof, but you can't tell. It's got all the original beams in it, and we just shored it up to make sure that it was safe. It is the main entrance to the house, and so it's used a lot, but from the other side you can't really tell what it looks like. We can walk up towards the house, and here we've got my trusty guard dogs, who are the most useless guard dogs you'll ever find in your life. They just love people, so it's their home too. And we tend to plant, there's a lot of the topiary was here. So a lot of the topiary is more than 30 years old. And we are very protective of it because it's very easy to lose some of these planting. And if you do, you have to start again from scratch. We look after it very carefully. We've got a lot of yew, a lot of box hedges, and everything seems to grow very well here, even though we're on quite a slope. I always tease my husband and say that it makes a very interesting croquet game on the hill. So this is the entrance to the barn, and this is the first thing that I saw when I was shown around this house, which was about 17 years ago. And I walked in and I was met not by the owner, but by the very old-fashioned housekeeper, who said to me that she'd been showing a lot of people around and there'd been a lot of interest in this building. But she said, "My dear, I am a white witch and I can tell you you're going to live here," which was a little astonishing, as the next day we didn't get the house. Someone else overbid for it. But 6 weeks later, it came back on the market and we knew we had to have it. We didn't even come back and see it again. And that started 2 years of intense work. Some of the features of this house, as you can see, it's a huge double height in here. It's a classic shape of a Cotswold barn. And it would have been used for keeping cattle, sheep, horses. But we decided that we wanted to live in the whole space and not divide the room up. So we started off with trying to work out what we were going to do with the with the woodwork. There was no woodwork in here at all. All of this has been put in by us. And here we had a genius carpenter who did this Elizabethan Tudor linen fold frieze for us here, and plus he did the whole floor here. So we then decided that we should plaster each end because it was a little bit too rustic. We wanted to keep some of the woodwork, but not all of it. Every bit of wood you see in here is new. We've put every single door in, every single banister, the gallery up there. This whole panel here is new, as indeed I said, the floor as well. So, and I should mention the back door, which is when we moved here, there was no exit that side, so we had to put all of that in and level out the lawn, so we had a bit of flat space that we could use for entertaining and eating outside, which we do a lot. Here I decided to use some very good quality natural linen from Belgium, which I'm a great fan of. I wanted to keep it neutral, but with a bit of a dramatic effect. So I had specially dyed bullion fringe. We don't close this a great deal, but it does, as it closes the room in a bit. But you know, I didn't want the starkness of not having any fabric here. My husband, I think, got this table from his mother. It's an old Spanish console with a lovely old sort of bowed top, very old, which you can see the dogs sleep underneath. Well, they don't actually, they sleep in my bed, but that's where they hover for most of the day. And then as you walk, we keep the coats here, you know, croquet sticks, lots of sun hats, which go into storage in the winter, and we change them over. And then we get into the main living area, the main part of the barn. We start off with this, what we call an altar table. And I did have originally a tablecloth made for it, a lovely, beautiful Fortuny tablecloth. But we actually threw on this lovely old Turkish kilim with the most beautiful old faded colours. And it looks so good that we left it like that. You'll see quite a dramatic sculpture on top, which we weren't really supposed to have. I sent my husband out to buy actually a dining room table because we felt that we were grown up enough now to have a proper dining room table. And he came back 6 hours later with this bust of St. Eustace, which if you swing to the left, you'll see I still don't have a proper dining room table, but she's become very much part of the scenery here. She's unmovable, very, very heavy indeed. And as I will go on to say, in this room, everything needs to be a bit dramatic because small things just tend to get eaten up here. You need, you know, big statements, slightly splashy statements, and so everything is slightly oversized. I decided to divide the room into three, otherwise it was impossible to have a sort of conversation piece here. So the left-hand side is the dining room where we eat, and then I have two sitting areas. The central area is around an ottoman, which is oversized and huge and bowing under the weight of books. We cannot, I almost think it's going to collapse fairly soon. And so we can get quite a lot of people in here, and it's got some wonderful acoustics. Not that I can sing at all, but apparently in the old days they used to have wonderful concerts here because it has a natural acoustic, I don't know what the term is, sound to it. Around this, I've got two very large Howard sofas. They are super comfortable, and they are. You could sleep on them very happily, but they are. I bought them to last for life, and it's a very cosy part of the room, which we lowered the ceiling here and put a gallery in upstairs, so my husband can work up there, and it's a small library, but it just gives this end of the room a little bit less height and a slightly more cozy feel to it. It's still very light because we have this huge window which looks down the valley, which, every opportunity we wanted to make sure we took advantage of the view down the valley, which I'll show you later. Again, I've got more of the same curtains. Again, they don't get closed very often, but it's nice to have them there. I've always done in a room like this, as you can see, my furniture is very neutral, which I love because all the colour comes from the cushions, the books, the paintings, the carpets, the tapestry. Everything adds to it, and you can really see them. So I keep the actual main pieces of furniture fairly neutral. I find it a much more calming way to decorate. I love antiques and old things that I've collected, or Alex collected over the years, and they're very much part of this home here. For many years, we've collected them together. But I love very clever modernity. I like very slick bathrooms. I'm very keen on streamlined design. This house actually doesn't look it, but it's actually very high tech. I can't work any of it, but my husband has put hours of work into creating a very high-tech security and heating system, which you can't see, and that was the point of it. So nothing is what it quite seems here. Yeah, this is a very old ottoman, which I had covered about 30 years ago, and they were quite surprised when I did it, because actually we are using here the wrong side. The right side is actually a Leliev velvet, but I found that a bit brash, so I used the lovely subtle base, which I think the upholsterer thought I was completely mad. But anyway, I've loved it ever since. On top, there are things that we've been given over the years. I mean, my husband is a great collector. And he came back the other day with this piece of beautiful corn, but just because it looks so beautiful. So we've got some lovely old blue and white china. Most of our blue and white china here, except for the eating part, are old pieces. So you can see behind me, these are collected either by us or from Alex's very, very talented mother, who was an interior designer herself. So we're lucky enough to have some of that collection here. And our life would be very empty without books. In fact, we'd be very uncluttered without books, but that's the way it is. So it's going to stay like that. We always buy old Turkish kilims. We've been buying them for years. You have to look after them. They do wear out if you have high traffic on it. But I personally love the designs, and I love the colour it gives. And we've got 3 in this room, and they anchor the whole room down together. But they, as I was talking earlier about giving colour and vibrancy to the room without distracting and overtaking the furniture. Oh, this is a very lovely portrait of, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, darling, Lady Sydenham, who was the second wife of Sir Francis Drake. Well, this is, this is a bit of a cheat table because I wanted something this size and I didn't have one. So this is actually a cloth, but again, lovely old faded linen, which I adore. And it's got, some things that we've collected over the years. Some lovely old blue and white china, which I believe we bought when we on a trip to Thailand. Some lovely old boxes. Some very sentimental silver pieces. This is a piece that I gave my husband for his 50th birthday with about 50 of his friends and family names engraved on it. And as one does in houses like this, essential porcupine needles, which I bought one day because I just love them. And a lovely old Chinese lamp. I love those faded old Chinese styles that are actually still made the old way in a certain part of China. And having visited it several times, I'm still in absolute awe of the craftsmanship. So it's nice to have a reference which is an old one. So we're going to move to the next part of the room now, which is quite separate, but obviously not that far away. Down here, there is a very small, very pretty chair, which belonged to my husband. I can't really believe he ever sat on it, but it is very darling and very pretty. And he's always had it, so it's a sentimental piece. As I've just been prompted, it's a nursery chair. And then we've got this circular bookcase, which was something my husband always wanted. It moves around, and it would have been either on its own or as a pair in a very grand library, I expect. But we keep some of Alex's favourite pieces in here, and some special books. But it gives some height as well, which is very necessary in a room like this. Then we slowly move into the middle part, which was a bit more complicated for me because it didn't have the focal point of a fireplace. And so I ordered this enormous ottoman, which didn't go down terribly well when I first got it in here. My husband referred to it as a raspberry swimming pool. But fortunately, he got used to it, and it is now groaning with books. It's supposed to supply a bit of extra seating, but nobody can fit on it. So it's just a receptacle for more and more and more books. Again, a lovely old kilim from Turkey, which is lovely and faded. The more faded, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And again, very neutral colours, but I've tried to circle the room so you've got seating on three sides. And it's broken up by a rather lovely but very overfilled Carlton House desk, which is a favourite of ours. It would have been probably more normal to have a flat sofa table here, but I rather love this, and it seems to work very well indeed. And we got, again, we mix things up here. This is a Moroccan table with mother of pearl inlay, which I think belonged to my mother-in-law. So that's another sentimental piece. Again, more bits of blue and white china. We collect funny things. So we've got, these wonderful old balls made of bone, which just because they look nice, it has nothing to do, in my view, of their value. It's because they have a purpose. They have a style which I particularly like. Well, there's that expression, isn't there? Which is, if you leave doors open, people will say to you, "Gosh, were you born in a barn?" My answer to what's it like living in a barn is neither my husband nor I particularly like tiny cottages, but we didn't want a huge, enormous house with parts of it that we didn't use properly. So this was an amazing compromise in a way, because we've got this room that is as big as a room you would find in a very large stately home, probably, but we use it all. This is our main living area. We've got a little snug where we watch TV or read or whatever, and the kitchen, and our own bedroom, bathroom here. But basically, we use this room, and so what I would say about living in a barn is that we are lucky enough to have these large spaces that we really, really use. Living in a barn does have its huge advantages and disadvantages. Our walls are extremely thick, and with that you get masonry bees. The other day we had a huge infestation of ladybirds. I think you call them ladybugs, but and we're quite sentimental about them, but it was a swarm of them. So all sorts of things like that happen in an old house like this. You can't avoid it. We had to work very hard to keep this house warm, and to get the right level of heating here. And the quirks are you have to be very careful of the roof. It is a very delicate, beautifully constructed piece of architecture, but you have to look after that. And all the tiling is very ancient. We used old stone for everything. So we've tried to keep everything not looking as it did, but I didn't want to lose the charm and the essence of this place, which is very charming and very livable. It's a happy house. Well, I feel like it's a magic house. People come here often in a really bad mood, and they leave with a smile on their face. So I think it has some magic qualities to it. So you mentioned these. These are called dummy boards, and we call them the sort of William and Mary. I think that's their age, and I think they were used as a sort of deterrent to burglars. I think they were put into a hallway where they didn't obviously have any electric light, and they were supposed to put people off. I'm not sure whether that's just a bit of a myth, but they're highly decorative. They're sort of cut out, and they're very beautifully painted. There's a man and his wife, and they were supposed to be, life size, but you see how short they were in those days. Then in here we've got some lovely console tables. My husband's beloved boat, which that end of the house is extremely dusty because nobody's allowed anywhere near it because it's so fragile. But it sits there, and it's just come back from the Maritime Museum, where it had an extensive repair. And it's one of his favourite things. And as you can see from the table, we've got a column in the middle with Napoleon on the top, which is extremely odd to have in the middle of a dining room table, but the height and scale is perfect. And we've got very tall ochre phalaenopsis, which, they add the bit of drama that is needed. And ochre dining room chairs, which we've had for many, many years. Both of us love hosting, as you call it. We like having people here, and I like to cook, and so we get great pleasure from doing it. My main always priority is that people feel really at home. So we have, an open drinks tray where people can help themselves to what they want. This opening here, which it joins us up to the kitchen. You can't walk through it, but it's a serving area. So it means that I can cook in the kitchen, and put everything on here so that people can serve them themselves. And so that works extremely well. As far as the table, I tend to use the ochre crock because I love blue and white, and so to be able to use that every day is perfect for me. We tend to sit down for dinner in the evening, even if it's just the two of us, because we quite like the ritual of it. But sometimes, on Sunday, this or Monday, I think it was, this table had 10 or 12 people around it. So, and it will extend if we really want it to. And whenever we can, which is not very often, we eat outside, which is nice and convenient there, but the many times I've laid it and had to unlay it, such as the British summer. We have I always use white linen napkins, which I like very much. I don't use too much silver on the table. We've got some obviously silver cutlery, but I don't have lots and lots of silver on the table. And sometimes I make it a bit more themed, certainly at Easter, Christmas, someone's birthday, because I like occasions. I like the drama of it. So I've got a store full of bits and pieces I can bring out if I want to change the look a little bit. Well, you can tell here, we both love portraits. So mostly these are portraits. I've never minded having lots of eyes staring down. They're all highly decorative. I would have to get some expert information to tell you what they all are, but I don't know what they all are. They all have, a sentimental story to us. We love having them around, and I think the scale works very well in here. Up here, these are two very interesting things. These are what they call burses, and I think they came out of Hampton Court, and they were what Henry VIII used to keep money and documents in. We had them restored and hung because they're very, very, very fragile, but they go very well in this sort of environment. Just talking a little bit about the windows here. When this was a barn, it would have just had the top triangle of the windows. There would have been no glass below it. Back in the 60s, they were opened up below to give more light to a room, so that this was a threshing barn. It was for grain, and they would have been air vents. And so what we did was, again, you can see on each of the windows, they are, beautiful shutters, which are certainly made for us here, which we close in the evening. They don't have curtains on, but I can see why you think they look a little bit church-like. I suppose it's because of the slightly Gothic top, but they would have been to let air in, to let the corn dry. No, my husband is a very, very keen chess player. I think he does sometimes online with people all over the world. I wouldn't dream of being as presumptuous enough to play against him, because he has much more experience than I do. But I believe this is an old chessboard that was given to him by his stepfather. So I think it has some very some very good sentimental value. Okay, so this is a basket full of some of my old collected pieces of fabric from all over the world. I can see there's some old Sazanis there from Turkey. There's some Indian pieces. There's old kilims here. So I tend to keep some of it here. I haven't actually got a use for them at the moment, but I love them. So they're here to remind me of my travels. I have extensively travelled to China and the Far East. I think I've done 44 trips to India, and actually never been on holiday there. It's what one thing I intend to do is have a holiday in India at one stage, because it's an enormously exciting, wonderful country. So I have travelled a lot in China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Burma, and mainland India. And all of those places, without exception, have influenced my love of art, craftsmanship, style. I love the way that the English mix Oriental chinoiserie, China, with much more Western taste. So for me, that is, it is certainly my form of style, and my husband the same. So a lot of the things here we've collected over the years. Okay, I'm going to take you all outside in a minute. Hopefully we'll catch it before it starts raining. But before we do, I wanted to show you the snug. So follow me. Okay, so this is the snug. We opened this up. You couldn't walk into it from the hall when we bought the house. So we opened it up and had the banisters and the steps made. Originally, it would have been where they kept the cattle and maybe horses in the old days when it was actually used as a barn. We use it for, relaxing, watching TV. The dogs love it. It's their favourite room. We had it painted, and none of our painting here is one colour. We had a specialist painter who took many, many days to get the finish right. And this is sort of reminds me of wonderfully faded Italian Tuscan plaster that is, really softened in the sun. We didn't want it starkly white, and we've actually even painted the ceiling, which actually gives it a much cosier feel. So this room is a very interesting room because we've got this lovely big window which we can open up in the summer right out into the garden. So you're practically outside. We have some books here. Obviously, we wouldn't have a room without books. We've got more paintings, more people, mostly. And my husband's just started collecting some rather lovely old bits of carved stone, which we've started to hang up. Which adds a bit more drama. You can see in the corner there is a lovely old piece of chinoiserie. And then we've got some family pictures. Alex has got a very big family, and I have too. So not all of them are here, but we do change them around from time to time, and make sure that we have pictures, for example, of Alex's mother and stepfather and father, who sadly are no longer alive, my father too. So it's lovely to have them there to keep a memory. Oh, this is Max. This is, as I've said before, my trusted guard dog who wouldn't scare a fly. This is his favourite room in the house because he can see what's going on and who's coming and going. I quite often work in here. If I'm working from home, and I've usually got both dogs with me when I do. I love having the view on the garden, so for me it's perfect. But my osteopath doesn't think the same. He thinks it's dreadful for my back not to have a proper chair, but I'm perfectly happy. Well, this is a lovely old fabric. It's an old Fortuny fabric, which I'm not a great pattern person, but I do admire Fortuny, especially the old designs, very much indeed. I've mixed them with some of our oak cushions. Again, this is an old carpet. We bought this ottoman at a sale, but it's obviously been handmade by somebody in cross stitch, which, you know, I couldn't do, but, you know, I love the colours here. And so with the combination of the pictures, the books, the cushions, you can see again I've got very neutral sofas and blinds, but the colour comes across, you know, in a lovely mellow way, which is what I like. I love most about this house that I truly, it feeds my soul. We feel very privileged to live here. We knew immediately it's where we wanted to live and spend the rest of our lives. Because we don't have children, we didn't have to have endless bedrooms, so it's quite small and contained, and certainly wouldn't suit a large family. So for us, it ticked all of those boxes. It's in the part of the world that I love very much indeed and know very well, and I think it's generally a very happy place, and I think that the beauty of it certainly feeds both of our souls, and keeps us very busy as well. So this is the back of the house. It was as you can probably see, it was a major slope. So we had to dig this out to make it flat. Otherwise, we couldn't have used it to eat and entertain out here. So it makes rather a nice enclosed space. It's very green at the moment, but I think it's probably worth looking at one of the best views. If you follow me, I can show you. So this is one of the views down the valley, which is sort of perfect, really. In the winter, you can see a lot more, but it's so green at the moment, you can't see so much through the branches. But it is a spectacular view down into the valley, which is called Macaroni Valley. We eat out here. We have drinks at the front. The morning sun comes out at the front, and this is the lunchtime onwards. Well, we have a lot of natural seeded Alchemilla mollis, which grows up in between the paving stones here and seeds itself. Some of it was here when we bought the house, but this back part has started seeding itself. I've encouraged it to, because I'm extremely fond of Alchemilla, which is a very much part of English gardens in the summer. I've got some in the beds here. We love roses. We've got some lovely Nevada roses here, some alliums, a beech tree. We've got foxgloves, honeysuckle, clematis, and on this side, I think, oh yeah, we've got some lovely white, sort of very pale pink peony roses, which are a great favourite. They're all probably from a very well-known British, I was going to say breeder, but no, grower of roses. He's called David Austin, and he's extremely famous, and he grows all the best roses in England. And I've got a lovely honeysuckle growing up the side, which will smell fantastic. And a lot more box and rosemary. Well, you're quite lucky today, because behind where the camera is actually a rockery. And a rockery, I don't notice it anymore, can be very, very noisy. But they are obviously off somewhere today, and I'm very fond of them. But we have endless, wonderful birds here. That being said, we also have a couple of barn owls that live in the walkway, which are beautiful. When I first came here, there were some white doves, which I haven't seen for a while. I'd long for them to come back, but the sparrowhawks may easily get them. But it's a very natural habitat for birds out here. We have it's delightful, and but you have to, when you live with it all the time, you have to remember to properly listen to it. The total part of our garden is actually not very large. It feels bigger because it after the hedge is a wilder part, which we've kept rather like that and very natural. It's full of cow parsley. It had bluebells. It had crocuses. It had snowdrops, and then we mow it back in about the middle of June to have some paths that go through it. But the whole acreage is under 2 acres. But because you can hardly see the wall, it seems to run away into the fields below. So it feels much bigger than it is. But we keep this bit quite well closed because of the dogs. I don't want them running off. So they are pretty safe in here. This is the back of the house, but we can get to the front. These are rather interesting, actually. These steps, we bought a whole lot of salvaged millstones and have used them to make paths and steps here, because they fit in with the whole feel of the house much better. You'll see in the ground we've got quite a lot of them here, and they make a really good basis for the stairs. It's a shame this is not actually, it's about to get trimmed, but this is some pleached limes, which are fantastic cover. It's a very small road, the other side of that. It's a B road. We get more cyclists than we do cars, but it's nice to have that privacy. Nobody can see in from there. At the top here, we've got some fantastic topiary, which is very old. It's been there longer than we have. So it's probably 30 years old. And as I said earlier, we are very careful with it because box can get a blight, a caterpillar blight, and it would be a tragedy to lose all this work. So this is the front of the house that has a smallish terrace, but we use it a lot. We resurfaced it a couple of years ago because the frost gets it from time to time. We've got a very ancient pear tree there. And more box, but this gets the morning sun, so we tend to use it in the mornings. Okay, I'm just going to take you across the lawn here to my guest cottage. So this building was actually just housed the oil tanks and the mowers and that sort of thing, but it was already structurally here and only had 3 walls, so we had to build the front out. But what we've managed to do here is have 2 very comfortable bedrooms with their own bathrooms and a sitting room in the middle, and it's very nice and quiet. And I'll just take you into the other bedroom because I've got a bed here that I had made about 35 years ago, and it looks it's fitted in here beautifully. We call this the tower bedroom. And so it's a lovely place to stay. I find my guests rather like having the privacy that they get here. And I make sure that they can make tea and coffee and things like that if they want to. But it's a very it's a nice, comfortable place to stay, which I can close off if it's not being used. We do have people to stay quite often, especially at this time of year. It's the sort of time of year when the garden's at its best. It's much easier to entertain if you could do a bit of it outside. But throughout the year, I have a full house at Christmas usually. I have family to stay. I have friends who come and stay, and so we really get full use out of it. It's a nice little enclave of its own. It's just across the lawn, so it's not far away, but it means that all of our guests get a bit of privacy as well. It's very quiet, and we can make it very sort of dark, and so people seem to sleep very well here. Homeworthy, it's been so nice to have you here. I'm so pleased you brought the good weather with you, and thank you for letting me show you around my quite eccentric home, as I said in the first place. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.